Everybody, the Gym Life Podcast, episode 5 of the new era. On today's show, Natural Strongman. That's right. A little bit of the strongest man on earth in the Shaw Classic. Got some listener questions for you. A little bit about amateur judging. That is a very touchy subject. I'll handle it with kid gloves, I promise. And then, of course, let's talk about summer maybe. Maybe we'll get on to summer, right? Summer's quickly approaching. For many of us, we're already behind the 8 ball because in our community, we generally use summer as like a season, right? It's like our competition, if you will. For a lot of us, maybe if we're not already competing, we want to look good in the summertime, look good in our bikinis, look good in our Speedos or bathing suits, or maybe all natural, depending on where you're from and what beach you're hanging out at. But in any case, looking better is always on top of the list as we quickly approach summer. And I got a feeling many of you, including myself, we're a little bit behind. So we're going to try to make up for that a little bit. I'm not going to give you any reasons on or ways of how to do that. I'm just going to share some, share some ideas and fun that I've had conversations with people within the lifting community about summer and how we're getting ready for it and how we're going to enjoy it and how we're going to kind of keep it together a little bit too, right? You can't get right to summer and fall apart. I mean, you got to hold this body together for as long as you possibly can until that last moment when summer's over. You're like, shit, all right, I made it. Because we certainly don't want to gain 20 one weekend. So maybe we'll talk about that. We'll see. I know it's still a little bit early, but certainly this weekend, it gets you thinking about summer. It did around here for sure because it was nice. It was warm. The sun was out. I think we hit 75 or 80 degrees. And in the Midwest, guys, in the Great Lakes in May, those are some good temperatures. So we're going to see, I think, a really warm summer, they're saying. And I think it's going to happen a lot sooner than a lot of us are anticipating. So maybe that conversation, if it doesn't happen today, it certainly needs to happen within the next couple episodes. Because maybe it can lend a little insight or a little know-how, a little cheat sheet to some of you guys and gals out there that are scratching your heads right now on how to get there and how to navigate it. So that could be a fun one for sure. I know this weekend for me, I enjoyed the weather through some Highland Games. Yes, Highland Games fun. You know, I always talk to you guys about Highland Games because it's another love of mine in the, I guess you could say, in the gym or lifting sports, right? Highland Games is one that many of you out there have tried and fell in love with like I did. And many more of you need to try it and fall in love with it because trust me, you will. It's that much fun. It's not more work, guys. It's not. And what I mean by that is if you're already lifting hard in the gym, you're already competing in strongman or powerlifting, maybe bodybuilding. I don't know. Although you bodybuilders do fine in this too. I'll get to that here in a second. Certainly with form. It doesn't require a lot of brute strength, although it doesn't hurt. But form is everything in Highland Games. So, you know, if you love competition, you love throwing heavy shit around, you love the camaraderie of the gym community, of this competition community that we have, then you will absolutely love Highland Games. Matter of fact, you might even love it more. And what I mean by that is it's just such no pressure competing. Generally, it's at some fun Celtic or Scottish festival. There's always bagpipes going on, and there's big crowds and pageantry, and you get to wear a kilt, for God's sake. The competitions are just, I don't know how to describe it, stress-free, just kind of flowing through your day, enjoying the day, enjoying good company, you know, back and forth between your family or friends that are there in between events. It's a lot of fun, guys. And if you ever get a chance to get to one of these gyms that allow or have these type of training sessions or a group near you, take it up. Go out to one of these training groups. Throw some of these weights around one day, and I guarantee you'll fall in love with it. You want to be a part of it, you'll find a competition, and you'll never look back. And what I like a lot about Highland Games, like I do about Strongman in particular, is that it's you against yourself. I mean, you're not worried about what the other guy is doing so much. At least you're not right away. I get it. At the higher levels in competition, if you're a pro or quickly approaching quote unquote, whatever the pro status means, yeah, maybe you're a little bit concerned about the guy next to you, but not in these amateur classes. You're not. You're there to try to get yourself better and to try to perform at a higher level, just like you do in strongman or powerlifting or even bodybuilding or CrossFit. Every time you go out to compete, you're less concerned about who's next to you doing what they're doing. You're more concerned about, can you beat your PR, you know, your best throw. And I've been doing a lot of that lately. So I'm super pumped up, guys. Yeah, that's right. When I came into Highland Games after, well, boy, let's just say when I started Highland Games, right? Because I had done it previously years and years ago, hadn't been involved in it in a good 10 years. I got back into it about 6 months after my hip replacement, and I thought I was ready to make the comeback. But like a lot of you guys and gals out there, you know what I'm talking about. Just because you think you're ready doesn't mean you're ready. And a lot of times you feel fine. You feel like you're doing all your static movements fine. But for some reason, your body's just not responding to what you want it to do. That's the way I felt that first season out there back in Highland Games in 22, the spring of 22. I wasn't throwing nearly as well as I thought I was going to throw. Just things weren't clicking. I couldn't figure out why, because I was like, man, I'm healed here. Why shouldn't I be throwing better than I'm throwing now and getting down these movements and these techniques and things? Well, come to find out now, 2 years later, as I'm getting back into it, because I tore my tricep last year and I wasn't able to compete, damn it, my hip is fully healed, as you would anticipate. Like fully healed, 2 years healed. And now I'm getting a chance to use it again. And boy, is it firing smooth, man. All the little dynamic nature of kind of firing your hips through everything, it's working. And all of my throws are 10 or 15 feet further than they were competing 2 years ago. So you already know how excited I am. I'm ready to get out there and have my first competition in 2 years because I'm already coming into it better than where I was at by far. So being able to come through these competitions now and challenge myself because I know I can get that form down, as many of you feel when you're coming back from injuries with powerlifting or strongman. Boy, it's a good feeling. It's a great feeling, and I'm ready to put my all into it this year. At least all my heart into it, and have a lot of damn fun. That's for sure. So yeah, and it's a little bit different too. My competition is master's class, like many of you out there, 40 plus. I'll give you that clue and that clue only. 40 plus. Yeah, you're competing against guys your age, and you feel pretty good about it generally. However, not anymore. I can't say that is the case in every competition, or even half your competition out there is probably still world beaters, because I don't think guys lose it anymore to their maybe close to 50. And you can argue a lot of guys are still fucking great at 50 years old. I would say your toughest competition nowadays in the strength sports is coming in the mid 30s to mid 40s, and Highland Games is no different. There's some monsters out there that throw in Highland Games that just understand the technique, put their strength behind it, and being able to get to the level where those guys are at. I'm far from it. However, the opportunity to compete at a high level in Highland Games is a bit different than it is in strongman, meaning you have to kind of get there through your achievements before you even get there. So I got a lot of work to do, and I'm okay with that. So there you go, competing against yourself. I think there's like A, B, C, D class of amateur in Highland Games. To kind of elaborate on that, what that means is that you're required in large part to hit certain numbers before you can advance to a new level of competition. And I really like that. With Highland Games, that really takes the pressure off, because if I'm competing in an amateur B or a C against an amateur A, I'm not, does it fire me up to be able to compete against better competition? For sure. But I have no visions of grandeur. I mean, despite how strong I might be, my technique is so far off that, to be able to start getting near those guys means that I'm putting myself, or I'm training harder and giving myself a better opportunity with better technique, maybe as opposed to strength, which is why I like that sport a lot. It really forces that. Not to say strongman and powerlifting don't require you to know a lot of the technique. What I'm implying is that maybe Highland Games does just a little bit more, because certainly we know in both those sports you can be one hell of a strong guy and still do relatively well, despite how slow your transitions might be or how bad your technique might be. Although competing at that higher level, you by default you better be there on all levels or check all those boxes, because you don't stand a chance. And same thing in Highland Games. I wouldn't stand a chance. But anyhow, the Highland Games world is amazing, you guys, and having an opportunity to compete right now and coming off a strongman injury last year, I'm just looking forward to getting back in competition. Like many of us out there, competition is what we desire. It's what we yearn. It's what we crave. It's a part of who we are, and I can't wait to get back to doing it. That's May 26th in Alma, Michigan. And on May 25th is the pro division that's going to be performing out there, and I cannot wait to see those guys in at least I don't have to throw on the same day, right? Oh, boy, that could be embarrassing. Because from what I understand, if you're an amateur in Highland Games, you've never seen a pro competition or pro people compete. it's a very humbling experience, and I'm ready for that. A good friend of mine, Sarah Bivens, at training at her house, is going to break the sheaf world record. That's right. You're going to break it, Sarah, because you just did at practice the other day. And that's right, guys. World record, 22 feet with the sheaf, and she's set to break it. So I'm looking forward to watching her do that. We'll see. We'll see if she can't do 24 feet. I think she has it in her. I have no doubt she's going to break the record, but certainly going to see some exciting things happening there at the Alma Pro and Amateur Highland Games 25th and 26th. Shout out to Alma and their Highland Games Scottish Festival coming up out there. So, yeah, that's how I spent my weekend. And then went up to Moms, of course. Mother's Day. Happy belated Mother's Day to all you mothers in the strength sports and the gym and lifting community out there. It was a great time up there in Traverse City. The weather was absolutely beautiful, and that's what kind of led me down the path of, oh, my God, summer is quickly approaching. So we're gonna have some fun, of course, when we talk about summer. What's on the list here? Let me grab a drink. Natural Strongman. I know many of you out there, like myself, have been looking around at some of these IG posts that Natural Strongman's been making. Largely, if I'm not mistaken, and I did a little research on this because some of you have reached out to me and asked me some questions about Natural Strongman, this organization. And I was pretty unfamiliar with it myself. Outside of what you guys are seeing on Instagram was kind of what I was seeing on Instagram. But it piqued my interest a month or two ago. So I was always kind of getting ready to talk about this as I saw a little bit more from the Natural Strongman organization come out. And yeah, I did. And it got me thinking a little bit about how I wanted to wrap my head around this topic. Not that it's right, there's what topic really, but there is kind of some things to be said about this, which I think are all fantastic, by the way. But I reached out to a friend of mine, of course, Luke Davies, who's a part of this. I'm not sure, a kind of more of a liaison, maybe an ambassador for the Natural Strongman scene out there. I know they're promoting some shows, but he kind of filled me in a little bit about what they have going on out there and kind of how it's affiliated with us back here, which it's really not outside of a couple qualifiers, but it's going to be soon, I have a feeling, and I'll tell you why. The Natural Strongman organization out there right now has over 400 active competitors. That doesn't seem like a lot. Certainly over here in the United States, we might say that, but 400 natural competitors competing in strongman, and that number is growing rapidly, according to Luke. And it's because there's a lot of people that are really interested in strongman, and they have been for a long time. We know this, guys. I mean, our sport is growing exponentially over here, not just with competitors, but with people who appreciate the sport. Not only that, I mentioned it last week, with people who now are using these implements to train in the gym with, that are becoming bigger fans of the sport because they know what it means to use these implements and to actually put big weight up with them, or to hope to put big weight up with them, like they're seeing a lot in these competitions in the strongman community. So Natural Strongman, to no surprise, is going to take off like wildfire. And it shouldn't be too long, I wouldn't think, until we have an organization over here, and maybe it will be the same organization there in the UK that decides to put their pieces in place over here to make that organization happen out here. I know they're doing it with qualifiers here in the United States right now to compete at that world scene, that Natural Strongman world scene, and I love it. I love it because not everybody wants to take performance-enhancing drugs, despite what many of us think out there, right? I get it. All you guys are, fuck that. Everybody wants to take performance-enhancing drugs. Listen, I'm indifferent about that. Honestly, guys, it's not an elephant in the room anymore. Performance-enhancing drugs are not a big deal. I know some of you go, oh, they're a big deal. A lot of people die. Listen, I get it. I understand that. There's a lot of people out there, despite the information that's available, despite the resources outside of that are available through drug testing and supervision and those kind of things, are still abusing the shit out of performance-enhancing drugs. Absolutely 100%. And a majority of those people are newcomers into the gym. They're young guys that don't give a shit, that throw caution against the wind, that throw their own mortality against the wind, and don't care a thing they're hearing from anybody else trying to give them any type of advice when it comes to taking gear. So yeah, you're right. I don't know. I went off on a ramble there. I guess it's one of those moments where we're like, God damn it, listen to somebody, would you? But that's why I love Natural Strongman, because there still are a fair number of people out there that don't want to take drugs, and that's good for them. Good for them. And I don't blame them one bit because, again, if you don't need it, why take it? If you can still enjoy the competition and the sport of things and you're competing on an equal level as other competitors around you, there's no need to do it. And that's great that Natural Strongman now provides that platform. I love that because I know there's a lot of guys and gals out there within the strongman community in particular that have competed for a long time, as a matter of fact, within the community we've already developed, which is largely, if not entirely, undrug tested. And they've had a tough go at it. Now, there's been a few of them, and I know who they are. I won't name drop today. Maybe we'll get into those conversations at a later date, that have done really, really, really well. But even those athletes, as they've told me in conversation at these particular events that I've been to, have told me they reach a brick wall. They reach a point where they can no longer compete against the guys and gals out there that are using performance-enhancing drugs. And yeah, that makes sense to all of us. It really does. So it becomes frustrating because you can imagine yourself being that type of competitor that wants to compete and have fun in a sport that they love dearly, and they just reach a point where it doesn't matter what they do. They're just not able to kind of get over that hump. And I know some of you are like, oh, fuck that. They'll find out a way. No, we all know that's not true. You're not going to compete against, a lot of what's available out there. And a lot of these athletes are taking it, certainly at a high level, because not only are they great athletes, they're naturally talented in many, many ways. And their ability to perform these in these events, and their technique with apparatus is highly tuned and finely tuned. Then now you add a little bit of extra enhancement on top of that. These people largely are untouchable by anybody who's a natural competitor. So the natural strongman scene is beautiful. I love it. And with over 400 competitors now there in the UK scene alone, and that being one of the smaller pools of athletes around, as many of those people over there like Luke and Reed that I've talked to in the past have mentioned, they don't have a big pool of athletes like we do over here in the United States. As a matter of fact, the whole European scene as a whole doesn't touch the number of athletes that we have over here in the United States. Crazy to think that a lot of them are better than us over there too, aren't they? That's a topic for another day. But what I'm getting at is certainly that natural scene over here could be exponentially bigger than that, which is awesome for our sport, because not only does it bring more competition into our sport or more ways to compete, but it also is going to bring more spectators and more fans and more people within the sport that are going to support the sport. Because I know a lot of natural competitors out there that still support the other side of things, the other side, right, over these other competitions that don't drug test as much as they would in supporting their own competitions. And I think that's fantastic, and they should, just like we're going to support all their competitions. And let me tell you something, for any of you guys and gals out there listening, and ask yourself right now, well, how exciting could a natural strongman competition be? Oh, look at the weights. Look at the weights. A lot of you guys and gals that are using performance-enhancing drugs right now to compete in strongman, you might want to question what you're doing wrong, because the weights that I'm seeing, like open log weights at 170 kilograms, that's pretty crazy, or that being a world record. I mean, do the math on that. What's that, 370 plus pounds for an open log press world record as a natural competitor? Your 105 class is doing 315 kilogram deadlifts, close to 700 pound natural deadlifts in competition. Yeah, so this isn't like some joke of weight, like, oh, well, this is only a glorified CrossFit competition. It's not. I can go down that list, and they do a great job in Natural Strongman to put those records in there, current records. They also put the competition weights in there that are right on these posts that you guys can start to compare notes a little bit. What's the challenge of Natural Strongman compared to, I guess you can say, untested strongman community? It's not that far off. And I would challenge many of you folks in the community that's not natural to ask yourselves if you would be challenged by those weights if you weren't taking any performance-enhancing drugs. The answer would be undoubtedly, oh my God, yeah, that's incredible that these athletes are putting up these kind of weights. So again, not to knock the community that I've been a part of forever, and I'm not at all. I'm just trying to give respect where respect is due to this natural strongman community, because it is really, really amazing what these guys and gals are doing. Yeah, and none of them are built like Mariusz Pudzianowski. I get it. They're a lot of these guys and gals, guys in particular, walking around in that sport, as I've seen, are just very athletic, well-built dudes that, quite frankly, don't judge a book by its cover, because they're putting up some weight. that I've seen on some of these videos that is, quite frankly, is incredible. So that's fun to watch. It gets me excited. Well, it gets me excited about being a strongman even more, but it really gets me excited about the growth of our sport. Because guys, imagine if we can remove the stigma of the sport, right? Which is, in some degree, maybe not the world level, but performance enhancing drugs, and how maybe some of the business community may look at it, right? To not want to affiliate themselves with our sport in particular because it doesn't necessarily encourage a natural path. That now, if we have a part of our sport like Natural Strongman that does, just imagine how many more sponsors and eyes we can get on the sport that can maybe spill over into the rest of the community. And by the way, it will. It 100% will, because more and more eyes will get on the natural side of things as well, and they're going to be curious about what's going on over here. So we lend to each other's community because we're essentially all part of the same community, right? But for lack of a better way to put it, we lend to each other's community in the natural strongman and the untested part of the sports that we all compete in. So I love it. I love it. I love it. I'm really surprised to see, however, that we don't have, I know we have qualifiers. I'm trying to wrap my head around it a little bit. We do have qualifiers. Luke had mentioned. There's not really an organization over here, and if there is, I apologize, or if there is, do a better job of getting it out there. A way to kind of maybe unify globally a little bit. So Natural Strongman Worlds, I encourage you to keep doing what you're doing over here in the United States, because I have a sneaky suspicion you will be completely amazed with the amount of people that would want to participate in a Natural Strongman organization over here. So yeah, 400 competitors. They do. They're sponsors. They're constantly reaching out to sponsors. There's a podcast. I believe it's naturalstrongman.com, or on YouTube, Natural Strongman. I followed that a little bit. You just have a lot of people right now that are just trying to come together to grow that side of the sport and that community. And no different than how we've done it for years and years and years on the untested side of the community. And somehow, if we can marry those two, not in competition, obviously, but in support, we're both going to be able to benefit from that. And that excites me, guys. It really does. I think you guys get that already. I've said it a thousand times just in this podcast. I'm excited. I'm excited. I'm excited. And it is because we're going to get more eyes on our sport. So they're doing qualifiers for Natural Strongman Canada and in Europe and Netherlands, in the U.S., in the United Kingdom, of course. Ireland's done one recently. So they're getting a global reach with this, or slowly but surely they're reaching out around the globe. So we're going to see some really cool competitions come through over the next couple years as this sport grows into a whole different scene that's going to develop later down the road. But I'm really interested in watching this Natural Strongman Worlds this year. I didn't write down the date. However, if you get on Natural Strongman on IG, follow it. They're nicely organized. There's a lot of information there. And their website, naturalstrongman.com, or I think it's uknaturalstrongman.com, or Natural Strongman Worlds. I didn't write that down, to no surprise, guys, either, but I'm sure you can Google it. They have a nice little website as well that kind of steers you down gives you good information, steers you down the path you're looking to go down. And not only that, another thing that I liked that was pointed out to me was they free live stream everything. They're so committed to bringing the Natural Strongman scene to the rest of the lifting public and then the viewing public. They're spectating public, that is. They're looking to make it so it's easily accessible, and they do all their live streams for free. So again, get on Natural Strongman and IG, get that live stream information, and you guys will all be able to check this out, just like I have over the last few days here in particular, to bring this information to you today. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's much more to be said about it than that. But I know right now my eyes are on it and they're glued to it. And in the future, I'm going to continue to bring you guys more and more information about this, including some of these athletes that are doing some of these amazing things. Natural, because we can all appreciate that, guys. Natural's not a word you hear too often anymore in the competitive lifting community. I know USAPL and USPA and maybe even WRPF and the powerlifting scene have some natural paths. USAPL is entirely a natural community. And then bodybuilding, of course, has theirs, PNAB and OCB, I think. Maybe there's more, but it's just so nice to see in the strongman community now that we have that option for folks, because all it's going to do is make the sport as a whole bigger and better. And real quick, for you guys out there, you're probably going to ask this question. So how do they test? What type of drugs did they test for? Well, right now, obviously testing, it's done through a urinalysis. They're working on doing blood tests, but it's obviously very expensive. As many of you guys know, there's a reason drug testing itself is really tough to do in any sport. It's because they don't make it very cost effective. So the honor system is pretty important there. Whether they use like a lie detector, I'm not a big fan of that either. But you know what? If you're a natural guy or natural gal, you're going to compete there. And if you're not and you're trying to compete there, well, you're just a piece of shit. So remember that. A lot of it has to come down with, what kind of person you are and kind of the ethics of it a little bit as well. And I know in every drug tested organization nowadays, that's kind of what it comes down to anyhow, because of the peptides and the SARMs that are available now that guys and gals are using, whether they're illegal or not allowed or not. Every organization is going to have that list. I didn't get that from Natural Strongman yet. That's another thing I'm waiting on. Again, that's why I'm going to update this to you guys as I get more information. But I'm sure it's pretty comprehensive. And for the most part, I'm sure it's pretty self-explanatory, right? If you're doing any type of steroid, you're not to compete in Natural Strongman. It goes without saying. But that doesn't stop a lot of people from competing when they know they shouldn't, though. And that goes without saying in a lot of different ways in our sports world right now. But certainly in Strongman and Strongwoman, don't do drugs. You can compete there, Natural Strongman. But yeah, we'll get to the bottom of that a little bit more as well. And oh, by the way, guys, TRT and HRT or any other acronym you want to call it out there is still doing steroids. That's right. It's still steroids. Yeah, HRT, hormone replacement therapy, or TRT, testosterone replacement therapy. For those of you out there that aren't familiar with the acronyms, it's still steroids. At what point did it become not using steroids? I could tell you that's only more recently, so people can kind of sugarcoat. And they don't have to. Listen, guys, just own up to it. Many of you guys out there on TRT and HRT probably need it anyhow, and I don't blame you. I think the only time it really becomes more abusive is when your total testosterone count reaches a certain level. Then you're probably using it more performance enhancing than you are doing it more naturopathically. I get it. That's a very gray area right now. And I highly doubt many organizations will accept use no matter what. But I understand through the grapevine that more and more of them are starting to look at it from a hormone replacement or I say that like hormone, like it's like some weird word or some hormone replacement as opposed to performance enhancement. But that jury's still out. So in the meantime, TRT, HRT, it's still steroid use, guys. It's not natural, so just get off that, please. And you guys that are under like 35, you don't need it anyhow, so don't even tell me it's HRT or TRT. I've said it on past shows. Nobody's buying that shit. All right. Yeah, there I go again, right? Get off on something that wasn't a part of the original topic. I'm really good at doing that. Okay. Shaw Classic. I want to get on that, right? Just quick. I know, right? I it's maybe a little early. It's not until August something, right? I wrote it down. August 15th, 16th, I believe. Shaw Classic is turning into a megalithic event in the strongman community, which I love. To no surprise, Brian Shaw, the biggest name in strongman, arguably in the history of strongman, or one of them for many of us. And not only that, in the United States, he's probably the best that we've ever had. I don't even say probably. He is the best we've ever had. He started a Shaw Classic up 4 years ago. It's turned into AKA the strongest man on earth. I think it's kind of being rebranded to that, or at least that portion of the show where all the pros are coming to do that show. And I would liken it to kind of Arnold Strongest Man, or Arnold Strongman. Excuse me. I would liken it to Arnold Strongman had a baby with World's Strongest Man, and then they had the strongest man on earth. It's the evolution of competition for sure, or those two competitions. Athleticism of World's Strongest Man meets pure static power of the Arnold Strongman is the Shaw Classic, a.k.a. the strongest man on earth. And the competitors they get there are almost the same right down the lineup, at least your finalists. Rags there, Let's see, Stoltman's are there. Obviously, all the Americans are there, Evan, of course, and even the ones that didn't make it to the final, like Bobby, hopefully back from injury by then. Trey, of course, Marcus Crowder. Who else am I missing off that list? Anyhow, I think every American, big name American on the scene is going to be back. Not only that, you have Thor competing in it this year. You've got that guy that I should have mentioned, Andreas, the Mexican guy, is going to be there, along with several other international competitors, and we'll get more on that list. But what I'm getting at is nobody's missing, guys. This is like, I don't even want to say World's Strongest Man, kind of a reboot, because it's not. This show entirely is its own entity. The equipment that they built for the show is head and shoulders above World's Strongest Man, equivalent to or on same page as probably the Arnold. The weight that they're using at this show, which I don't think it's been announced yet, but according to years past, it's crazy heavy, and these guys are expected to move as well. So it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. We'll get more on Strongest Man on Earth in future episodes. But what I really like about the evolution of the Shaw Classic is now they're bringing in lightweight women and lightweight men. That being the lightweight women, I guess, would be, what would that be for women, right? We know what lightweight men is for men, or the lightweight class is for men. It's 105s. 105s have always been the iconic lightweight class, because long before 80s and 90s, there was 105s and there were open guys. What was it for women? I guess I should have looked that up. I think it's open in 82s, right? Or open, I don't even know. I mean, what's the breakoff point? I guess I got to ask that question to myself for the next show. Maybe one of you guys can fill that in for me. What would be considered lightweight women? I get the show itself has a class for that, but is there a standard class for lightweight women in the strongman community? I get it, 64, 72s, 82s. This show actually has a, no, it doesn't. I take that back. Natural Strongman, I'm thinking, had a 57 women's class. But in any case, Shaw Classic now has 2 women's classes, and then we have 2 men's classes. I'm very interested in the 105 class. Very, very interested. Johnny Alamo is in it. I've been in contact with him off and on for the last few weeks, just kind of seeing how he's doing. He made it to the finals at Clash a couple years ago. He was one of those guys, like Vince Wilkinson, who also made it to the finals, that's competing in PSL here in the upcoming weeks. 2 guys that I'm keeping my eye on is that next generation of 105ers. I know the list for the 105 class, or the lightweight class at the Shaw Classic, hasn't came out yet, but from what I understand, there's going to be some big names on it, some guys that are perennials at OSG, top 10. So we're going to see some good competition there. Johnny Alamo is one of the ones that I'm looking forward the most, because I want to see his progression in the sport. I know it's going to be big time. At least I'm behind you all the way until you're not a lightweight anymore, which is going to be pretty quick here. I've been telling you that. Well, I told you that when I met you. We'll see how long you stay in the 105ers, bro. You're going to be an open guy soon. I have no doubt about it. Yeah, so that's that. I just want to leave that on the Shaw Classic. Just kind of throw a little teaser out there for you guys. The America's Strongest Man, or not America's Strongest Man, Strongest Man on Earth. This show has been a shit show, by the way. Jeez, oh Pete's, guys. I think I took way too much energy drink on this show. I'm still going to release it. I can't do this over and over again. I had about 15 outtakes on this show. I kid you not. I couldn't get past the first minute and a half, and I was getting so frustrated. If I'm going to start slurring my words or messing words up or whatever it is I do as I get rambling on, I just don't want to do it in the first 1 or 2 minutes of the show. If I'm starting off like that, I'm truly fucked by the end of the show. So this show, yeah, as you can imagine, just the way that you've already listened to it, if you've made it this far, not on top of my game at all. But you know what they say, the show must go on. I want to talk real quick about, I made some mentions of some shows that were going on last week, are coming up in the spring, that were just going to be great shows to watch. And I wrote one down here, and I'm going to try to find it. There it is. Wow. Not organized, but organized. This one here, if I had a wish list of shows, this would make it. Because I love this guy, Ronnie Coleman. It's the Ronnie Coleman Classic in Fort Worth, Texas on May 18th. Who doesn't love Ronnie Coleman? Honest to God. Bodybuilding fan, not a bodybuilding fan. Appreciate charisma, appreciate good people, just everything this guy represents. He's class all the way. I would love to make this show. It's May 18th, so I'm not going to make it because it's only a few short days away. But I got looking at the show on Iron Podium, and I thought, wow, what a huge lineup for one. To no surprise, that Metroflex gym, Texas itself, is a melting pot of strongman competitors. I mean, there are competitors from everywhere that come in from everywhere, I should say, around that general area. And then the state itself is just loaded down. I mean, by itself, Texas, as we know, could be its own country. It could literally be its own strongman organization as well. So that list is deep. Matter of fact, I quit counting. There's hundreds of competitors there at the Ronnie Coleman Classic. Now, I think the Ronnie Coleman Classic, although I didn't see it as it was listed or advertised on Iron Podium, it's a bigger event than just strongman. I think they have a lot going on there. I think it's more like an expo of sorts, at least I think. But however it's laid out, I'm going to find out. I hope it's live streamed. That I don't know. I just got all my information off of Iron Podium. But it is a qualifier for everything out there. I think it's a Strongman Corp show. It's a qualifier for all the regionals, and I believe it's a qualifier for OSG. I think it's a qualifier for obviously the nationals. So every class has got a qualifier of sorts in it, from first all the way down to fifth place. That's how large this lineup is. So if you're an athlete that is looking to make some waves quick, get into the Ronnie Coleman Classic, or just get into the damn Ronnie Coleman Classic, because it would be a badass show to be a part of, like a lot of big shows like the Great Lakes. I always got to mention it one time per episode. You guys know that. Great Lakes Strongest Man. It's just a show, I'm sure, down in that Texas, Fort Worth area that you want to be a part of. But this is something that stood out to me that I really liked about the Ronnie Coleman Classic. So they have events, and they get creative with their event names, right, in honor of Ronnie Coleman. So these are Ronnie Coleman isms or Coleman-isms or quotes that they've worked into their events. The first one is, "Ain't nothing but a peanut circus dumbbell." God, I gotta love it. It's so nostalgic, guys. I mean, just watching all those videos of Ronnie say the stuff that he used to say that now everybody says in the gym, even still today. He's got they've got the "yeah, buddy" yoke and frame carry, lightweight, baby, mammoth deadlift. Everybody want to be a strongman, arm over arm. Now we know that's everybody want to be a bodybuilder, so there's a little change on that, little play on words there. And then the last one is solid ass pounds scepter hold. Now all those are, of course, Coleman-isms, or that doesn't sound right. That sounds like a disease, Coleman-ism. They're quotes, Ronnie Coleman quotes, and I love it. Especially "ain't nothing but a peanut" and "yeah, buddy." We all know those ones. Lightweight, baby. Everyone want to be a strongman, and solid ass pounds. Boy, that's just awesome. I love to see that. I understand, of course, Ronnie's going to be there. Why wouldn't he be, right? It's his show, a classic for him, in honor of him. And I hope you guys have a great time down there at the Ronnie Coleman Classic. I just giving you a little gym life love here. I would love to be a part of that event. Maybe next year again. I've got all these visions of grandeurs about making all these great shows around the country, and many of them just to be a part of it, just to be a part of the pageantry of it, and just to take in that energy that all you guys experience at all these great shows out there. Boy, I'm there in spirit, I'll tell you. I'm there in spirit. But listen, guys, before I really butcher this show up with a lot of nonsense and a lot of stuff that you guys don't want to hear and rambling on, just like I'm doing right now, I'm going to say goodbye to you. And I'll see you on the next show, which I promise I'll get done in the next couple days and have a little bit more content than this one. But in any case, stay fit, stay healthy,